Okay, so you're thinking about studying in New Zealand in 2025,
Awesome.
but probably wondering, like, how long is this visa going to take?
Yeah, it's super important to figure that out early.
For sure. Nobody wants to be, like, scrambling at the last minute, worrying if they'll even make it to New Zealand in time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's crucial to have a clear timeline, and that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today.
Exactly. We're diving deep into all the essential info about New Zealand's study visa processing times for 2025.
Yep, we've gone through all those official guides and stuff.
Right, the expert advice, even real stories from students.
Yep, so you can know what to expect.
Exactly. And more importantly, maybe even speed things up a bit.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So first off, let's talk about those standard processing times.
The typical time frame.
What should people generally be prepared for?
Well, it kind of depends on how you apply.
Oh, right, online versus the old school paper way.
Exactly. So if you go online, which is usually the best bet, it's typically around 4 to 6 weeks.
Not too bad.
But with paper applications, you're looking at more like 8 to 10 weeks.
Ah, that's quite a difference.
It is. And keep in mind, sometimes there are those complex cases, where it can even take up to 3 months.
Wow, 3 months. That's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, so planning ahead is really important.
It is. Now, I remember seeing somewhere that the average processing time was something like 2 months. Is that right?
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
As of December 2024, the average was around 61 days.
Okay. 2 months-ish.
Pretty much. But what's really useful is that Immigration New Zealand actually breaks it down even further.
Oh, really? How so?
So they look at the type of education provider you're going to.
Interesting. Okay, so like university versus something else.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
give two figures. One is the average processing time, which is basically the time it takes for 50% of applications to be processed. And the other one is the time frame within which most are completed, like 80%.
Okay, so it's two different ways of looking at it.
Yeah. So for folks heading to private training establishments or PTEs, yeah, the average was about 3 weeks, and most were done within 6 weeks.
Gotcha.
Now, if you're going to a university, it gets even faster.
Oh, that's good news for the uni students.
Yeah, about 2 weeks on average, with most done in 3 weeks.
Wow. And what about schools?
Schools are the quickest, averaging around 1.5 weeks, with most completed within 2 weeks.
That's a huge difference depending on where you're studying.
It is. It's good to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So it's almost like you can set a target based on your institution.
Exactly. And don't forget, these numbers don't usually include weekends or public holidays, so factor those in when you're planning.
Right. Good point, because that can add up.
Yeah, and also those processing times for student visas, the paper applications,
Yeah.
they specifically mentioned a range of 50 to 80 days,
Okay.
but there's a faster option too, 20 to 30 days, but only for certain cases.
Right, right. So those are like the best case scenarios.
Yeah, when everything goes smoothly.
But let's face it, real life's not always a smooth ride. So what are some of those pesky things that can cause delays to throw a wrench in the works?
Well, there are a few,
Hmm.
and this is where being prepared can really help.
Okay, good, because nobody wants to be stuck waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest culprits is an incomplete application,
Ah, that makes sense.
like missing documents, or incorrect information.
Well, yeah, like your transcripts or proof that you have enough money to live there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also those health certificates, some countries require those.
Right.
And any of those missing pieces can really slow things down or even get your application rejected.
So basically double, triple check everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meticulous attention to detail is key here.
Okay, noted. What else can cause delays?
Well, the volume of applications can have a huge impact.
Oh, yeah, like those peak times when everyone's applying.
Exactly. Like think of it like applying to university itself.
Oh, yeah.
There are certain times of the year when it's just crazy busy.
Right.
So for New Zealand study visas, those busy periods are usually June to September and then October to February.
Yeah.
It's all tied to those new academic intakes, in July and then November or February.
Makes sense. So if you can avoid those peak times, that would be ideal.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Applying well in advance, like 3 to 6 months before your course starts, can save you a lot of stress.
Okay, 3 to 6 months noted. What about those medical exams and background checks? Do those take a while?
They can add to the overall processing time for sure, especially if you're planning to stay for more than 6 months.
Right.
Those character and police clearances can take a bit.
So best to get those done early.
Exactly. And make sure you use a doctor who's on Immigration New Zealand's approved list.
Okay, so no last-minute doctor's appointments.
Nope. Plan ahead, and it'll save you a headache later.
Good advice. Are there any other kind of less obvious factors that might affect processing times?
Yeah, actually, your country of origin can sometimes play a role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was this case study from February 2024 about a backlog for Indian student visa applications.
Interesting. So it's like, depending where you're from, it might take longer.
Yeah, the volume of applications from certain regions can impact the speed.
That makes sense. And what about interviews? Are those common?
Not always, but if you're required to have one, that will definitely add to the processing time.
Okay, so that's something to be prepared for.
And even those small errors, the ones we tend to overlook.
Oh, yeah, like typos and stuff.
Exactly. Even a little typo or using the wrong form can cause delays or even get your application rejected.
Oh, wow. So no room for sloppiness?
Nope. Proofread everything carefully.
Got it. What about the tuition fees?
Yes. Some applicants need to prove they've paid their fees before they can get the visa.
Right.
So any delays there with the payment or the bank processing it can also hold things up.
Okay, so basically pay those fees early and make sure everything's cleared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one last thing, if you only have a conditional offer from your school,
Conditional offer meaning?
meaning you haven't met all the entry requirements yet, like certain grades or something,
Right, right.
that can also delay your visa approval. They usually want to see an unconditional offer.
So everything needs to be finalized on the school's end first.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of potential hurdles.
Yeah, we've gone through the bumps in the road.
But now let's talk about solutions.
How to navigate this whole process.
Right. What are some tips that our listeners can use to actually speed things up, be proactive?
Absolutely. The first thing is, and we've said it before, apply early aim for that 3 to 6 month window.
3 to 6 months before your course starts.
Exactly. Gives you plenty of leeway.
Right. And what about the application itself?
Make sure it's accurate and complete.
Okay, so double check everything.
More than double check, make sure you have all the necessary documents.
Okay, run through the list for us.
So you'll need your valid passport, obviously,
Right.
and it has to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your planned stay.
Okay, beyond your studies.
Yep. And your official letter of offer from an education provider that's approved by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority.
NZQA.
That's the one.
Yeah.
They're the ones who make sure the school's legit.
Got it. So the offer letter has to be from a recognized institution.
Exactly. And you'll also need proof of funds to show you can support yourself while you're there.
How much do you need to show?
At least 20,000 New Zealand dollars per year for living expenses.
Okay, 20,000 NZD per year.
You can show that through bank statements, scholarship letters, sponsorship letters, anything official that proves you have the funds.
And those medical and police certificates we talked about before.
Yes, those two, if they're required for your situation.
Right, right.
And finally, your English proficiency test results.
Okay, so proof that you can actually speak English.
Exactly.
Got it. So it's all about being early accurate and having all the right paperwork.
Exactly. Now, here's another tip. Use the online application portal if you can.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's faster.
It is. Online applications are usually processed quicker than paper ones.
Makes sense. Less paperwork to shuffle around.
Exactly. And make sure you pay the correct visa fee. It's 375 New Zealand dollars as of 2025.
Okay, 375.
And confirm that the payment went through no hiccups there.
Right, because that could definitely cause a delay.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that can really help is a strong statement of purpose.
SOP.
That's it. It's your chance to explain why you chose New Zealand, what you
Yeah.
want to study, your goals.
Like a personal touch.
Exactly. It helps them see you as a serious applicant.
Okay, so put some effort into that SOP.
Yeah, it can make a difference. And you can also check if Immigration New Zealand offers priority or fast-track processing.
Oh, that's a good idea if you're in a hurry.
Yeah, it might cost extra, but it could be worth it.
Right, so make sure you explore all the options.
Exactly. And while you're waiting, don't just sit around, track your application online.
On the Immigration New Zealand website.
Yep, that way you can see what stage it's at.
Yeah.
They might ask for more information, so check your emails regularly and respond quickly.
Okay, so stay informed and be responsive.
Exactly. And check your passport again, make sure it's valid.
Oh yeah, we don't want any last-minute passport panics.
Nope. And look into the New Zealand Electronic Travel Authority, or NZERA. Yeah, depending on where you're from, you might need to apply for that before you even traveled to New Zealand.
Okay, it's something to keep in mind. And of course, avoid those common mistakes we talked about.
The typos, the inconsistencies, missing documents, all those things can really slow you down.
So triple check everything.
Exactly. And if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed,
If it's all too much.
yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to a good education consultant.
Okay, so someone who knows the ins and outs.
Exactly. They can give you personalized advice and help you through the process.
That's good to know. So let's say you've done all the right things, you've been super organized, but your visa is still delayed. What should you do?
First of all, don't freak out.
Easy to say, hard to do.
I know. But seriously, stay calm and be proactive.
Mm.
Keep checking the status of your application online.
Okay, so keep an eye on that website?
Yep. If it's been a while and there's no update,
Yeah.
reach out to Immigration New Zealand, directly ask for an update.
Okay, so you can email them or call them?
Yep. And double check that you haven't missed any requests for more documents.
Right. Sometimes those emails can get buried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one more thing, keep your university or school in the loop. Let them know about the delay.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. They might be able to help too.
Exactly. Communication is key.
It is. So before we wrap up, are there any new trends in how New Zealand is handling these visas that people should know about?
Yeah, one big trend is the move towards digital everything.
Makes sense.
Immigration New Zealand is really pushing online platforms and digital tools to make the whole process smoother.
So less paperwork, more online stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. Now, I know we also looked at some real stories from students.
Yeah, those case studies.
Right, because sometimes it's helpful to hear about other people's experiences.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we saw a few cases where being prepared and getting expert help really paid off.
Okay, tell us about them.
So there was this guy, Arav. He was going to study at the University of Auckland, and he was totally overwhelmed by the visa process.
Yeah, it can be a lot to figure out.
But he got help from an education consultancy. They helped him with the timelines and the paperwork, and he got his visa without any stress.
That's great.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's worth getting that extra help.
It can be. And then there was Priya. She was in a real-time crunch because she had to start at Victoria University of Wellington pretty quickly.
Oh, wow.
But she used priority processing, and her consultant gave her this checklist to make sure everything was perfect.
Okay, so she was super organized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she got her visa in just 4 weeks.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. And finally, there's Rahul. He had some trouble proving he had enough money for Massey University.
Oh, yeah, that financial stuff can be tricky.
It can be. But with some guidance, he got the right documents and found a good education loan, and he got his visa in 5 weeks.
That's awesome. So all these students face different challenges, but they overcame them.
Exactly, by being proactive and getting the right help.
Great examples. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say it's this understanding those factors that can affect processing times and being proactive are key.
So planning ahead and being organized.
Exactly. And remember, those standard processing times are just a guide.
Right, your situation might be different.
Exactly. It depends on your individual circumstances and how many other applications are being processed at the same time.
So be prepared for things to maybe take a bit longer.
Yeah. Always good to have a bit of wiggle room.
Absolutely. So as you're listening, think about which of those factors we talked about might apply to you.
Right. Think about your own situation.
What can you do right now to start preparing your application?
Exactly. Because the more you do now, the less stressful it'll be later.
And the sooner you can start your adventure in New Zealand.
Exactly.
So get that application rolling.
And enjoy the journey.
Awesome.
Thanks for all the insights.
No problem. Happy to help.
And good luck to all our future New Zealand students out there.
Yeah, best of luck with your visas.
We'll catch you in our next deep dive.
Sounds good.